All right, welcome to the Roadmap to Retirement podcast.
This is Roadmap to Retirement. Tune in for financial tips, investment strategies, and smart money moves to supercharge your retirement savings. Alex Neri, CFP, and guests are here to help you build your roadmap to retirement.
John, welcome back.
Thank you.
This is your third, fourth appearance?
Yeah, but my first appearance in this space, which is great.
New space?
New space.
Same John.
Yeah.
I think. Are you the same John?
Can we ever say that we're the same as we were when last you saw us?
What's the saying about a man stepping into a river and no man steps in the same river twice or something because he's not the same man and the river's not the same river? Okay, that's not what we came here to talk about today. But we're going to talk financial planning, which is always exciting.
Yes.
So I have a list of things that we're going to run through. Maybe we'll get distracted and only get to a couple of them.
I know none. Full warning, I know what none of these are. You're the only person in the room who's seen them.
That's,
I would imagine,
almost true. All right. A client says to you, John, Social Security is a Ponzi scheme. How do you react? Are they right?
I guess I ask them to elaborate a little bit.
Okay.
In what way do you think it's a Ponzi scheme? Do you think the whole system is a Ponzi scheme, or do you think that your benefit is a Ponzi scheme? There's a little bit of truth to the fact that it's a Ponzi scheme. In the truest sense of a Ponzi scheme, you take money from new investors and give it to the people that are cashing out. I'm not an expert on Ponzi.
Sure. So you're willing to go on record saying this? Sure. Just kidding. All right. So in all seriousness, that question or the motivation behind that question is something that I'm sure you've heard before that I deal with every once in a while. And it's not always like a formal client. It might just be you're in a normal social setting and people are upset that they're paying into Social Security and they refer to it as a Ponzi scheme, or they think that it should be whatever. They do the math on it and they say, if I pay in 6.2% for 30 years, I would have been better off putting that into my 401k or another investment. The system's broken in that sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that's not really a genuine argument because there's a lot of things they're not considering. And, for our audience and for you, but like we have disability benefits, we have spousal benefits, survivor rights. There's a lot of things that go into the Social Security system that are not just the check that you start collecting in your 60s.
Yeah.
So
I think there's definitely an argument to be made. When a client comes to you with something like that, I try to hear it with empathy and understand where they're coming from and then explain the facts to them, because a lot of people have a ton of misconceptions about Social Security as well. They might think that they might not understand that when one of the spouses passes away, that they maintain the larger of their two benefits and then the smaller one goes away. Or they might think that they'll never get anything out of it. People our age, when I talk to them, they very reasonably have strong concerns given the fact that there's been mathematical analysis done to prove that the trust fund will be depleted within the next 10 years unless something changes. It's a very valid feeling, and I do understand. It's just trying to change people's frame of reference is important to help them get in where they need to go, because it's a huge piece of the retirement planning puzzle.
Sure. I think there's also a point to be made about, okay, let's say that we all agree it's a Ponzi scheme. It's still not going anywhere. Like you don't get to opt out. So I don't know, put your mental energy towards something that like you can actually impact and not that.
Yeah, I guess that's completely fair. You're going to pay into it one way, or so what's the point of being concerned about it? Like in terms of creating a plan, it's easy for us to create a financial plan that doesn't involve Social Security. We can just not include it in the planning assumptions, but there are a lot of things that people worry about that maybe they shouldn't.
Sure. And I think if you're close to retirement, you probably start to look at it as, a sunk cost in a way. If you're 65 years old, you want Social Security to continue to be a thing, and it's going to be. This is a weird hypothetical conversation.
Sure, of course.
If you're 22 years old, given the opportunity to opt out of Social Security, which you don't have,
right?
Maybe it would make sense in some weird hypothetical way.
Yeah, I could definitely agree with that.
I don't know if we need to go down this road anymore, but that's a question I get all the time.
Yeah, I get that one a lot. Or I guess it would be more of a statement than a question, right? Like
it's a statement. Yeah. It's people want to complain about something, and Social Security is a great thing to complain about. So
yeah, because it's 100% out of our control, except for who we vote for, and even then, it's not even.
It's really up to the shadow government. We'll leave that there. Changing the topic. So one of the things that I think I'm sensitive to as a financial advisor is I see all the ads other financial companies run. You see the things that pop up on your social media feed, commercials on TV, if you still watch one of those.
Yeah.
So there's one company that likes to run a thing that basically says how to retire with $1 million, which is interesting because obviously they're targeting potential clients that have $1 million, not less, hopefully more. So let's start with not picking on this company. How do you retire with $1 million, John?
How do you retire?
Yeah, if people don't want to click on that advertisement, they just want us to give them the answer real quick. How do you retire with $1 million?
Yeah. So I actually prefer to, it's a subtle framing difference, but I would prefer to frame that question as what does it look like to retire with $1 million, right? Because anyone can retire with $1 million. Whether it makes sense and whether it works or not is a completely different question. So in my opinion, there are so many factors involved in that.
Yeah. I was joking when I said we were going to answer in 3 minutes. I didn't expect a real answer.
Yeah. But that's one of the things that really bugs me about this industry in specific is that there's a part of this industry that wants to do clickbaity headlines. And then there's a part of this industry that wants to take things seriously. And I would say that we are in the take this seriously camp. And people who take this seriously know that you can't answer that question the same for every type of person, for every type of situation, because there are things like pensions. There are things like variabilities in Social Security income. There are health issues and concerns. So basically, the way that you would need to figure it out, in my mind, is this is so self-serving, but work with a financial planner and actually develop a financial plan, because there's no way for anyone to know enough about the scenario to be able to even answer that question. So I recently worked with a client who has about $1 million of investable assets. They have a pension, small pension. They have Social Security income to consider. They have non-retirement assets that they'll be able to rely on between when they retire and when they start taking Social Security. And then they have a house to live in. They have modest expenses. Can they make $1 million work? Absolutely. I had another client who has about $1 million. Situation is completely different. They want to retire earlier. They have significantly higher household expenses, no pension. Their Social Security situation was completely different. And they probably are going to really struggle with $1 million. I don't know if that's the answer you were looking for, but that's what I
think it is, more or less. I think, like, the way you broke it down makes sense. Is you can do a case study and you can say, here's an example person that's 62 years old, they're retiring, they have $1 million and they are rich. You can have, here's person B, who is also 62 years old, also has the same $1 million, and they are broke. So, like, it's just funny. Like, I see these advertisements and I know what they're getting after. Of course, they're trying to attract $1 million client, which they see as their target audience. So they make clickbait for that, and that's what it is. But it's always just funny to me because, as we've laid out, it's not as simple as a dollar amount. You get the question of how much do you need to live, or how much do you need to retire, which is the same question in reverse, but it's like, there's not really a number for that. Just there's no retirement age. There's no age you have to be to retire, but there's milestones that make it a little bit easier.
Yeah, I get that one a lot at parties, actually. How much should I have to retire? And I know, knowing nothing other than the fact that you like to drink the old fashioned that's in your hand, I can't tell you that. I always tell people when I'm having conversations with them to illustrate how ridiculous that question is. I've put together plans for clients where they had 8-figure net worth and their plan failed. That was going to fail within 10 years. I have put together plans for people who have had $200,000 to $300,000 of assets that have worked beautifully. And it all just, the primary thing, that the number one input that matters the most in a financial plan is the expense number, in my opinion. That is the thing that determines your chance of success the most. So it's so funny that people focus on the investments because the investments are really interesting and fun, and everyone likes watching CNBC and thinking that they're the next Warren Buffett. But really, to me, that's the least interesting part. We've talked about this. And it's also one of the least important pieces of the finance. It's important, but it's less important than understanding your expenses and how those impact you on a go-forward basis.
Yeah, I think my favorite retirees are the ones that they live on their pension and Social Security. They don't know what to do with the rest of the money. which is sort of its own problem. I know we've talked about this in the past, but like we do need to figure out a meaningful way to use that money.
Yeah.
But they've been so good throughout their working years of making sacrifices to save that they've lived modestly, they've lived within their means, which is ideal. And now they're retired and like this money's sitting here and they're still living the same lifestyle they did when they were working. So maybe they should buy a convertible or something cool. Or they won't. But
Figure out ways to increase joy.
Figure out ways to increase joy.
Yeah.
That's a good topic.
Which is all, honestly, if you didn't have a topic, that's what I was going to talk about.
Okay, let's talk about ways to increase joy. All right, so let's paint a picture. We're retired. We're in our mid-60s.
You and I, as friends?
We retired as friends in our mid-60s, which is great.
I could ask for nothing more.
You're much older than me, but we'll try to figure out a way. In a scenario where we're both in our mid-60s at the same time, we'll give it a go. Now I lost my train of thought. So we're retired. We have this void to fill of time, 40 hours a week that we're committed to this thing, and now we stopped doing that. So now we have a surplus of time. We also, hopefully, if we've done everything correctly, we have a surplus of money. So how do I take this money plus this time and spit out something called joy? Should we define the result here? What is joy?
First of all, that's such a good way of putting it. And yeah, let's define joy. What do you think joy is?
Well, I recently read a book about Buddhism, so I have a lot of thoughts on this.
Oh, please. I have not. So you would be more.
I have a book you can borrow.
Okay, good. I won't read it.
Okay. But I guess I would summarize joy as being like, it's the thing that's left over when all the worries of life and all the burdens you put on yourself are now gone. So in a way, like pure joy is probably unobtainable. This is not, I'm a financial advisor. This is not my wheelhouse at all. So somebody that's better at life knows what call in. But anyway, so for example, a retiree might be able to say that one of the burdens they had throughout their working career was having enough money, but because they've saved, they can get rid of that burden. So we remove that one, but we might also still have burdens of failing health. Our health might decline as we get older. It usually does. So we're never really going to have that. We're not going to have it all. There's never a point in your life where you simply have it all.
Fair. Yep.
So we remove suffering. Now we have joy. So how do we increase our lack of burden? How do we fight off the burdens in retirement? How can we use money to get rid of obstacles that prevent joy? Is that a good way to phrase it?
That's a great way of phrasing it.
This is already the strangest episode I've ever recorded. So I'm here for it. That's not true.
This is
the rest.
I think about this stuff all the time.
Okay.
So for me, I want to take a step back. For me, money is a tool to buy joy.
Okay.
And what that joy looks like is unique to each person.
Yep.
So whether it is vacations, things, time, it can sometimes be time.
Okay.
In terms of health and in terms of the ability to not have to do something else, or it can actually be giving. So giving can create joy. I think that those are the primary categories of the things that money can be converted into to create joy. So I think that if we combine those two ideas, using money to remove burdens and create more joy as a byproduct, then we have to it's different for every single person. And you have to actually think about it. You have to actually take the time to evaluate what being joyful means for you. Does it mean being present with your family? Does it mean pursuing a hobby? I always say that, and I might have said this to you, that the people who have something to retire to tend to do better than the people who have something that they're retiring from. And that is an indication of joy, right? If I'm leaving this job to go do the thing that brings me joy, I'm using my resources to buy myself the time where I don't have to do the thing that was keeping me from doing the thing that I really love.
Sure.
But the first step of that is identifying the thing that you really love that brings you that joy. So joy, I love your definition. I think it's great.
Nice.
Yep, the removal of suffering. Sure. And I think that the thoughtful deployment of capital, and Carl Richards says that capital is energy, I believe he says energy, time, and money, right? Sure. So the deployment of our capital in a way that removes our suffering, but it's uniquely personal to each of us. And what I find is that a lot of people, especially in the older generations, haven't spent time thinking about what brings them joy. They default to golf or travel or spending time with the kids.
All good things.
All great things. All great things. And maybe those are the
Johnny, why do you hate the kids? Okay. I like the way you laid it out, right?
Yeah,
So
right.
those are the normal answers, right? And I think there's a lot of literature out there that will suggest that you're better off spending your money on experiences than material things,
Yep.
and that'll lead to happiness and joy and all those things. But I think one of the things I get hung up on here is I think the way that society positions it, and especially if you're the kind of person that's made sacrifices to save, is we see it as distasteful to value material things. Some people struggle with this, some people don't.
Yeah.
But there's a certain type of retiree who's never bought the high-end car, who never went on the expensive trip, which isn't really material, but we'll say it is for this. And they, even if buying that expensive car is something they secretly had in the back of their head for 30 years, they feel weird about the way that their friends and family might judge them if they go out and get that expensive car and are seen driving around town, that they are flaunting their wealth or whatever it is. So I guess, I don't know how to even phrase this, but I'd like to have a message to that person that like gives them the freedom to go purchase that vehicle guilt-free if, as you've laid out so nicely, if it really is the thing that brings them joy. And I'm not that guy. I'm not a car person on that level, at least. Like, I don't see that being me in my mid-60s, but if we're still retired together in our mid-60s as friends, maybe you want a car. I don't know.
I am a car guy.
You're a car guy.
Yeah,
so tell me about being a car guy. What does that mean to you?
Oh,
How does that bring you joy?
yeah. So I'm like an interesting car guy in that I am interested in cars from like the 90s and the 2000s. And I've owned several of them. And they bring me joy because I can actually work on them. I work on them myself.
Okay.
They bring me joy in that when I drive them, I feel like I'm driving something from my childhood that the childhood version of me could never obtain.
Okay.
And as someone who has the tastes that I have, which tend to be a little bit more expensive to drive.
You can tell by the way we're dressed. You have better taste than me. That's a compliment. It's a backhand compliment, but it's a compliment.
Sure. I think that a lot of people, when I was driving those cars, were surprised by the fact that I was driving those cars. So I was driving like an old Chevy Camaro that is like like I said, from the 90s, or an old Firebird, again, from the late 90s. And they have a certain connotation of who drives those cars. And I would step out of them dressed like this, and it would be like a mismatch of what people expected. And also I know that people judged me for my choice of cars. I'm sure that they still judge me for my choice of cars. It's so much easier said than done, but it's important, in my opinion, to have a certain amount of irreverence. If you identify something that brings you joy, it's important to be irreverent to what other people's opinions are.
Sure.
Because no matter what you do, no matter what choice you make, there's always going to be someone who thinks that choice was wrong or who can judge you for making that
So
choice.
I like where this is going, because one of my favorite theories around money is after your basic needs are met, every single thing you do could be considered a waste of money.
Absolutely.
Whether it's going out to eat at a restaurant, that's a waste of money because you could be cooking at home. Whether it's going on vacation, well, that's not a necessity. You don't need that, so that's a waste of money. Buying a car, a lot of people will tell you that's a depreciating asset. You're wasting your money.
Yep.
But once you get to that line, and I think I'm sure it's changed with inflation, but at one point, nationally, it was an average of $75,000 of income. Once you make $76,000, that's now disposable income, and whatever it is. I think the way you laid it out is correct, but I would go back to what you said earlier. And part of the reason that being a car guy brings you joy is like working on it yourself. There is an experience that goes along with the material possession of the car.
Yes.
And I wonder if you remove the working on it yourself thing and you just bought a car that you just
Buy and drive it.
You wanted, it was a thing, you bought it, you drove it. And driving is an experience too. So maybe a car is a weird example.
And that's what I was going to say. So like a car is a constant feedback loop. Like you are driving it, it is making noise, it is exerting force on you. It's never clean enough. You always have to wash it. You always have to take care of it. You always have to figure out where you're going to store it if it's your extra car. Like it's a constant work. So it's like a hobby.
It's your baby.
It becomes a very precious thing to you. Just like watch collecting can become a thing, golfing can become a thing. I saw a reel last night and someone said, what's so appealing about golf is it's 100 problems to solve in a 4-hour span, right? You never have the same shot twice. You have to figure out what club you're going to use. You have to figure out what went wrong with your swing that made you duff the shot or whatever. And it's just another expression of a hobby. It's if you want to get down to it, like, I love that philosophy from you. Everything beyond our essential expenses is a waste of money. So there's always going to be someone to judge you for the way that you spend
And
your
that
money.
person will be there. There'll be somebody waiting to tell you that the thing you got was a waste of money, or we could talk about this for hours. Tattoos.
Yep.
I don't have any tattoos.
No.
There are plenty of people out there that have tattoos that bring them joy, and there's other people like me that'll sit there cynically and tell you it's a waste of money.
Sure.
I don't know.
I think it's important. So if you want a message for someone, like the person who's holding back buying a car because it's going to keep them happy, it's going to make them happy, but they're concerned about what their friends would say or what the people would say, is that you have to run your own race. We are here one time. We get one chance at this. Are you here to prove something to someone else, or are you here to do something different? Are you here to make yourself as happy as you possibly can and your family as happy as you possibly can? What does that look like for you? These are values-based questions that it's important for people to answer, and it's important for us to help people answer. I think that it would be really sad if I heard that if I worked with a client and I showed them that it was perfectly possible for them to do the thing that they'd always wanted to do, but then they felt like they couldn't do it because of social restrictions or social norms.
Sure.
I actually worked with a life planner, a financial planner that I know who went through the kinder process, and he's a life planner. And he helped me get my values aligned. And one of them that came up pretty top of the list was owning a vintage car one day. Again, because I don't own one now.
Well,
And so doing something like that, or incorporating in your practice something where you're helping clients go through a values-based exercise instead of just a dollars-based exercise, is incredibly important. And then working with a planner that actually does that for you, I think, is super important as well, because what are we all doing here?
what are we all doing here?
What are we all doing here?
Sure.
Yep.
So let's go back to what's now our fundamental question today, which
Yep.
is surplus of money plus surplus of time equals joy.
Mhm.
But how do we get there? So one solution sounds like it's buying an old car, but
Oh yeah,
Not
I
really.
recommend it to anybody who wants it.
we'll say the old car is a metaphor for that thing that you want to do in retirement that you feel a little bit of guilty for because your friends and family aren't doing that thing, and they'll look at you and say, "What the heck, John? Why do you get a nice car?"
Yeah.
The other thing that you mentioned a few minutes ago that I think is powerful for a lot of retirees is just the idea of giving. And I
Mhm.
know for myself, like, some of the best things I've spent money on are things for other people.
Yep.
And it feels really good to give someone a nice gift or experience that they weren't expecting.
Yes.
So there's a lot of ways that you can do this in retirement. And I don't necessarily want to go through all of them in detail, but there's the idea of there's the reality that we're not going to live forever. And when we die, whatever money's left is going to go somewhere. And if you're a retiree that's done a good job saving and investing and you're living on your pension and you're this person we've described, there's going to be money left over, and it's going to go either to your kids, if you have kids. If you don't have kids, you probably named another beneficiary. If you haven't named a beneficiary, maybe think about doing
Yes,
that.
definitely.
Definitely think about doing that. So somewhere, either through named beneficiaries or through your will, money's going to go somewhere. And there's this question of, if we recognize that the reality is that you're not going to spend all your money, would you rather have it go in the form of inheritance, or would you rather be able to gift that to somebody today while you're alive so that you get the joy, that's our theme of joy, so that you get the joy of watching them spend and enjoy that money, or had the experience that you're paying for, whatever it is.
Yep.
And when I have this conversation with retirees, a lot of them, you can tell by the way I'm talking about it, are angled towards one of these outcomes. So they're looking for ways to gift money during their lifetime to people they care about, to see the joy on their kids or grandkids' faces, or whatever it is. So I'm rambling about that. Obviously, I'm giving you my opinion on how this should be approached. But
Yeah, no, I think that's really important. I was listening to a podcast episode that another advisor had shared with me, and it was, I can't remember his name, but it was with the author of the book Die with Zero. I think we've talked about this.
Sure.
And what was really appealing to me was the idea that, what are you hoarding your money for? Are you afraid that you're going to run out? We have a plan that shows that there's almost no way that you could run out, right? Are you afraid of healthcare expenses, long-term care expenses, something like that? You can buy insurance for that. Are you afraid that your kids or your relatives won't have enough money when you pass away? You can buy insurance for that. You can insure almost anything. So beyond that, spend your money in a way that provides you the most joy. And what this person identified was a way that provided them the most joy was they would take their friends on trips with them. And because it's a shared experience, and friendships are, I believe the strongest friendships are based on shared experience.
Sure.
So it's a shared experience. There's a chance for your friends to do that the entire time, but you genuinely get to have that experience and know that your friends who might not have the resources that you do get to be a part of this in a way that they might not have been able to have been if you didn't offer to pay for it. So of course, we're talking about different stratas of wealth, but that is one thing. And it doesn't have to be an extravagant trip. It doesn't have to be $100,000 trip. It can be a $10,000 trip.
Yeah, taking your friend to dinner. Like you can start there. It doesn't have to be like
you can go camping together and just make sure that you're covering all the expenses. It can be the barrier to this is so low. It's just thinking about it. And again, figuring out what's important to you and how your actions can align with those values.
Sure. The issue that some people might face around that, or at least their headspace issue, is people tend to be proud.
Yeah.
You tell your friend, hey, I'm going to go on a nice all expense paid trip to Europe. You're coming with me, I'm paying for everything. That's a weird spot to start, right?
Sure, I agree. Yeah. So I guess that first of all, I'm a big advocate for having emotionally vulnerable and open conversations about things. So letting the friend know that this is part of your plan, that this is part of your plan for your wealth, and it's really important to you that you do this type of thing is one way to open the door to that.
I have a good opener.
Yeah, what's that?
John, I have too much money. It's a real problem. Can you help me out here? You think that would work?
Yeah. Could you help me please spend it?
Could you help me have less money?
Yes. That would be yes.
And then they'll turn around and say, hey, Alex, I have a problem too. I don't have enough money. And then you have this perfect friendship.
Yes. And then you go skipping off together arm in arm.
I think, yes.
I would love that.
Okay.
So is that what we're going to do?
Sure. Let's do that. Where do you want to go?
Just lunch is fine.
Lunch is fine.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll work on that.
Yeah.
One of these days.
Yeah. We never do lunch.
No. Okay. So this went a different direction, I thought. We covered joy.
Yeah.
Anything else you got to say about joy?
No. I think that joy we could spend hours talking about it. And I think that you and I both have different versions, which is the beautiful thing. And all of our clients would probably have different versions of it as well. But I'm so interested in exploring that with my clients, especially now that the technical aspects of what I do are still interesting and I still do them, and I'm still really proud and happy to do them well. But I'm so much more interested in the joy piece because I think that people just don't have enough time to think about it. And I'd like to give them that space to be able to do that. But joy is so important because a life without joy is just...
Yeah, it's also the point of financial planning isn't to just simply have the most money. That's not
right.
That's not a game you want to win.
Right. There's one person in the world who gets to have the most money. Everyone else doesn't. And that's not a fun game to play.
This is, again, another segue, but you're meeting with somebody as an advisor, you're talking to an individual or a couple, and they're close to retirement. And you start to run like the Monte Carlo analysis around, are they ready to retire? And okay, yes, you can do it, but it's always going to be the case that I can look at you and say, Mr. and Mrs. Client, if you work one more year, you're going to be in a better financial situation.
Always. Yep.
And then they work another year, they come back into my office and I say, looking at your numbers again, if you work one more year, you're like, there's always going to be this case of if you earn money, you save, you invest the money, you don't spend the money, you will always progress towards being financially healthier. But that's not the point. The point isn't to die with millions of dollars. The point is to use the resources you have to spit out this result that we're going to call joy. And
that's such a good point. I very recently worked with a client, and that was the exact conversation. They're on the cusp of retirement. They're 100% work optional right now. And the conversation was, what if I continue to work? Does it make it more comfortable? I was like, yeah, it does, of course. But why? You're already going to be increasing your lifestyle than from where you are now, in terms of you're going to be spending more in retirement than you are currently.
Yep.
You can do that comfortably. And there's no sign that your plan is going to fail if you do that. So how much more do you need to spend every year? How much more do you need to die with? The limit does not exist. We could keep doing, you could work for forever.
Yep.
So it's a question of, it's always a values-based question. Where do you want to keep working? Great. If it fills you up and provides you joy, then great, because work can bring you joy. If it doesn't, then what are we doing? What are we having a conversation about? Like another 20, 30, 40, 50 grand in your plan? That doesn't excite me personally. Maybe it excites them and we can work on that, but just not really what we're solving for, in my opinion.
Love it.
Yeah.
All right. Getting towards the end of our time.
Okay.
Anything else you want to make sure we poke at today?
No, I'm just really happy that you brought me on.
I'm happy you showed up. You're a little late today, but I won't hold that against you. All right. We'll let the people wonder about the backstory there.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for joining us.
Thank
This
you.
has been the Roadmap to Retirement. That's it.
Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA and SIPC. The opinions voiced in this podcast are for general information and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which strategies or investments may be suitable for you, consult the appropriate qualified professional prior to making a decision. Individual tax or legal matters should be discussed with your tax or legal professional. John Howe Wimet is not affiliated with or endorsed by LPL Financial or Cultivate Financial Planning.